I'm Sarah, and I thought I'd just have a wee chat about the different things that chickens can and cannot eat, or what it's safe for them to eat and what it's really not safe for them to eat. Now, what I'm talking about is things that are over and above their normal feed. So, you know, normally you'd get them chook pellets from the store that hopefully should have all the proteins, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, minerals that they need, and of course you give them fresh water as well. And of course, chickens that free range, they're going to get a lot of nutrients from their environment. But this is sort of more focused on treats, table scraps, things that's safe to give them over and above that. I'll just start with a wee disclaimer that I'm not a veterinarian, I'm not a trained expert, I'm just someone who's owned chickens for years, and I've done a lot of research on this. So if we start with fruit and veggies, broccoli, cabbage, they can have that either raw or cooked, especially with cabbage. If you dangle it for them, if you got something to dangle it off, they'll have a ball just pecking away at it, and they're quite fun to watch too. Bananas, they can have bananas, they're really good for them, both the fruit and the peel. They generally won't want to eat the peel, but like people, it is actually okay to eat. Citrus fruit is okay for them to eat, things like you know, lemons, limes, mandarins, oranges, grapefruit, but generally they don't like it. So they generally will just choose not to eat it, but it is perfectly safe for them, both the fruit and the skin. There's a lot of fruit, like grapes and pineapple, that are perfectly fine for them to eat, but with fruit you want to do it in moderation because it's got quite a bit of sugar in it. And so, you know, like anything sugary, moderation. The things in the nightshade family, tomatoes, potatoes, capsicum, yes, they're fine. Tomatoes need to be ripe. Potatoes, they also need to be ripe with no green bits. And capsicum or bell pepper, they're fine as long as it is just the fruit. So with either of those, you don't give them the leaves or the flowers from the plant or the plant itself. They're quite nasty. Celery, mine aren't particularly interested in celery, but apparently that's fine for them. Strawberries are all good. Apples is another one apples are fine. However, try and leave the seeds out if you can. The seeds on apples can actually contain very small amounts of cyanide. If they accidentally ingest a couple of them, chances are they'll be fine. I think the general rule is about 3/4 of a teaspoon, which is actually quite a lot of seeds for one chicken, and then that could get nasty. So if it's feasible, try and take the seeds out. Don't give them a whole heap of apples with the seeds in. You know, that's not so good for them. Asparagus is fine. I have never tried this. I've never given them asparagus, but you know how you have the effects on people when you eat asparagus? Your wees smell funny. Now with chickens, apparently it makes the eggs taste funny. So I'd be interested to hear if anyone's done that. Leave me a comment and let me know. Onions, I didn't previously know this, but onions you're not meant to give them because it can make them anemic. Raisins, you can give them a few raisins as a treat. Again though, like any kind of dried fruit I suppose, very high in sugar, so only a few. Don't give it to them very often. Any kind of berries is fine. Raspberries, blackberries, boysenberries, blueberries, all good. Cherries, take the pit out if you can first. If it's a hot day, both cucumber and watermelon is brilliant. Obviously both of them have a lot of water content, so they're both really good options to keep them hydrated on a hot day. Avocados, steer clear from avocados. The actual green flesh of the avocado is itself okay, but the problem is in the stone in the middle and the skin. That is quite toxic for them, as well as anything that has come into contact with the stone and the skin. So obviously if you're giving them the green fleshy bit in the middle, you have to very carefully cut around any bits that have come into contact with either the stone or the skin, which is a lot of fiddling just to give the chicken a bit of avocado. I'd rather just put it on my own toast. Pumpkin, they love pumpkin. Pumpkin's all good. Both the both the pumpkin itself and the seeds. The seeds are actually really good at keeping worms at bay apparently. So yeah, chop a pumpkin in half and put it in there and just watch them go for it. It's awesome. Carrots, they can eat carrots, both the orange part and the green bit. Mine don't tend to like the green bit, so you know, each to their own. Peaches and plums, similar with apples, try and take the pits out because they actually contain, I think it's the bit inside the stone, it does contain cyanide. So don't let them eat that. If you can take the pits out, then yeah, do so. Kumara is all good, either raw or cooked. Kale is good for them. Melon is good. Eggplant is apparently a no-no. Eggplant is quite toxic, or aubergine as it's known, depending on where you are. Now green beans, this is one I didn't previously know about. Green beans are fine as long as they are well cooked. Don't give them raw green beans, they can actually be quite deadly. Kiwi fruit, pears, mango, tick tick tick, they're all good. Zucchini or courgette, marrow, that's all good. Lettuce, now chickens generally love playing with lettuce, that's another good one to hang up for them to play with. But there's not a lot of nutrition, especially in iceberg lettuce. In iceberg lettuce, there's not a lot of nutrition in it, and they could fill up on it, so it's something to give them maybe towards the end of the day. You know, make sure you're supplementing. Corn, peas, Brussels sprouts are good. Rhubarb, you're not to give them rhubarb. It contains something called oxalic acid. I might be pronouncing that wrong. But yeah, it actually can kill them. And something else that contains oxalic acid is also spinach. Now spinach actually has a lot of things in it that is good for chickens as well. It only contains very, very small amounts of the oxalic acid. So spinach is okay, but in small amounts. Now of course they'll do all their own foraging, that sort of thing, any bugs and worms. You can actually buy things like mealworms, which they love as a treat. Grass is fine. Just maybe be wary of really long grass, can actually clog up their system quite easily. Now with flowers, it's probably best to Google the individual type of flower you're looking at, because of course there's that many types of flowers and they're all different as to whether or not they can have them. I have been told as a general rule chickens will know by instinct what is good for them and what is not, what they can eat, what they can't. I'm a bit skeptical. I think some chickens might be a bit smarter than others. I know a few of my chickens, I'm not sure I'd trust their own judgment. So it might be just best if you're letting them forage around flowers, just to Google if you're not sure. Other kinds of leftovers, like dinner leftovers, cooked rice is fine. There's not much nutritional value in it, especially in white rice. So just make sure you're giving them that after they've had their chook pellets, so they don't just fill up on that and that's it. Same sort of rule with pasta and bread. While they're not, you know, it's not going to harm them if they absolutely love bread, and if they will fill up on that before anything else. In my experience, they will fill up on it and they won't get any nutrients from that. So that should really be more of a treat at the end of the day. You know, you don't want them filling up on bread and not wanting the stuff that's good for them. Chocolate, don't give them chocolate, send it to me instead. I am loath to share my chocolate with anyone, let alone the chickens. But chocolate, like with dogs, is actually quite toxic to chickens, so no. Send it to me. Popcorn, however, they can have popcorn. That's fine. Obviously, don't be tempted to flavour it. Don't go flavouring the popcorn for the chickens. You know, sugar, salt, that's not good for them. Plain popcorn, all good. Now meat. I always get told, don't give them raw meat. Always cook the meat that you're going to give them. So if we're having a roast or something, cook the roast in the oven. And the bone, I'll quite happily give it to the chickens, and they love to peck away at it. So yeah, any leftover cooked meat is good. Now, I guess that's a salmonella risk, but also, of course, when they're foraging, they eat bugs, that's raw meat. I saw one of my chickens once actually catch a mouse and eat it. whole. It actually swallowed the whole thing, bit by bit whole, and I was horrified. I thought the chicken was going to choke. They're velociraptors. They are velociraptors, basically. So yeah, obviously that mouse was not cooked. So my general rule is any meat that I'm going to give them from my kitchen, I'm going to cook it to keep them safe. If they're going to go out and catch their own raw stuff, that's their business. Ham, you can give them ham, but just in small amounts because it is quite salty. Dairy products, you can give them in moderation. So cheese, yogurt, milk. Yogurt is actually really good for their gut health, but they're not really designed to process dairy products very well. So just as a treat every now and then, I've got a clip somewhere of me giving my chickens some Labneh cheese, and they absolutely love anything like that. Nice Greek yogurt, they are so into it. But just as an occasional treat. Butter is not good for them though, so do not give them butter. Eggs, yes, they can eat eggs. Of course they can eat eggs. However, if you don't want them thinking that it's a good idea to eat their own eggs, they're best disguised. So if you're cooking up some scrambled eggs, give it to them scrambled, because then they won't recognize it as an egg, if you like. So they can get all the nutrients from the eggs without being tempted to eat their own eggs, because they will eat their own eggs if they cotton on to the fact that they're quite delicious. Also, the eggshells. If you give them oyster shell grit, which many people do because it gives them calcium, it's good to keep their eggshell nice and hard, you can actually replace that with the chicken's actual eggshell. I've heard of people just drying it out in the oven, crushing it up and sprinkling it around the ground for them, and they can just forage for it as they would with, or just put it in a dish, you know, in a dish separate to their normal food, and they'll just have it as they need it. Cereal, you could give them cereal, but again sparing, because cereals are very sugary. I don't think I'd be inclined to give mine cereal. Now what you'll often hear as well, to up their protein, especially if they're not laying or if they're sick or something, is to give them dog roll or cat food. Maybe not like all the time, every single day. It's like a treat, it's a supplement. I've often done that. If I've got a sick chicken that's gone off the lay, you know, I've chopped up some dog roll and given them all a little bit of dog roll, and they go nuts over it. They absolutely love it. Nuts are apparently fine, apart from peanuts. I have heard mixed reports about whether peanuts are okay for them. So, and just chop them up, make sure they're not going to choke on them or anything. Oats are good, raw or cooked. Sunflower seeds, if you're going to get fancy, you could give them some quinoa, some chia seeds by all means. Pickles though, don't give them pickles because they're going to be very high in sugar and or salt. Fish is good for them, either raw or cooked. Coffee grounds. Coffee grounds are not good for them. They don't have any nutrition and they've got caffeine in them, and no one wants a bunch of caffeinated chickens running around. And mouldy food. Don't give them mouldy stuff. You wouldn't eat it. Don't give it to your chickens. By all means, keep the conversation going. Let me know in the comments down below, you know, what you give your chickens. Or if I was wrong on any of these points, if you don't agree with something that I said, that's fine. As I said, I'm not a professional, I'm just sharing what I have heard. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button, leave me a comment, hit subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.